It's a bold move from the government to put forward legislation that would change things unilaterally. Is there much precedent for the government acting this way when it comes to international agreements?
Not really. We are in uncharted waters here. You can see why the government has done what it's done. It says the protocol isn't working, and you've had the collapse of devolved power sharing. You've had the collapse of the Good Friday Agreement institutions in Northern Ireland. Given that the protocol was designed to preserve the Good Friday political institutions, there is a paradox at play here. I mean, the government has introduced domestic legislation to override the protocol, partly because it doesn't believe, I think, really in the protocol, and secondly, to get unionists back into devolved power sharing in Northern Ireland. In that sense, I think the government will be disappointed in the short term because it's 2.5 weeks now until the Northern Ireland Assembly breaks up for the summer recess anyway. So I think the chances of the DUP going back into the institutions at this stage are pretty slim. And the DUP's got until the end of October anyway, under the existing rules, before it has to nominate a Deputy First Minister to get a devolved power sharing executive back in Northern Ireland. So politics in Northern Ireland are pretty much on hold. The government's legislation this week is designed to restore that devolved power sharing. And it's really, in some ways, what the government has introduced is probably the deal that Boris Johnson should have signed or should have held out for in 2019, rather than the deal that he signed up to.
It does seem to be pretty moderate in its demands, asking that goods that are going to go to Northern Ireland, to stay in Northern Ireland, don't get checked, but goods that have a risk of going on into the EU single market in the Republic of Ireland do get checked. It's a compromise proposal, although I suppose, given the political situation of the time, the fraught political time we lived through in 2019, when deals had to be done and deadlines kept getting delayed, it's almost understandable why Boris Johnson took a slight shortcut to get that deal. Do you think potentially it was always the plan, therefore, to change it after the fact?
Well, Boris Johnson took the shortcut to get Brexit done. It was a famous and very successful election-winning slogan, but Brexit wasn't done for Northern Ireland because Northern Ireland remains under EU rules. It is, in some ways, an annex of the EU. Now, it should be said, a majority in Northern Ireland voted to remain, and 2/3 of voters at the Assembly election last month voted for parties that are in favour of the protocol. But unionists are bitterly opposed to the protocol. They don't understand why a border has been put between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And there is a certain logic to saying, well, why? If goods are going from Liverpool to Belfast, they're going from one part of the United Kingdom to another. What has that got to do with the EU? Why do you need to check goods? There is obviously a logic to having checks on goods going from Liverpool to Belfast that are then going on to Dublin, because they are entering the EU single market, and therefore they need to be checked. And you can't check those goods at what is one of the most politically sensitive borders in the world, so the checks will have to take place in Northern Ireland. So unionists are not going to get all they want here. They're not going to get rid, full stop, of an Irish Sea border. There will be one in place. But the logic that comes from the government is, look, this border should only exist for goods that are going on into the Irish Republic, i.e. into the EU single market. The default position of the protocol is that everything going between Great Britain and Northern Ireland has to be checked. And that has outraged some businesses, by no means all, but some businesses in Northern Ireland who say this is a massive load of pointless bureaucracy. And it has obviously enraged unionists who see it both in terms of a barrier to trade, a barrier to the UK internal market, and they see it also in terms of a diminution of British sovereignty. So you see where the argument's here. And the British government had two options. One was to introduce domestic legislation, which may well be challenged legally, or it could have triggered Article 16 of the protocol, which could have suspended parts of the protocol anyway. I think the Article 16 route would have been preferable if you're going to go down that route, but the British government has decided, no, we're going to go with domestic legislation instead.